Australia, white sandy beaches, sparkling blue seas and searing sun. While the warm sunny climate seems idyllic, there is a substantial downside. The ultraviolet light in the sun's rays damages DNA in the skin, causing cells to mutate and turn into cancer. Over half of all Australians will develop skin cancer at some time in their lives.
380,000 people are diagnosed with skin cancer every year in Australia, and 1,500 people die from skin cancer every year in Australia.
Indeed, Australia has the highest levels of UV radiation in the world. And while skin naturally produces melanin to absorb some of it, fair-skinned races have less melanin than those with darker skin. And the risk for people born in Australia is higher than for migrants. Most damage is caused before the age of 15.
In Australia, we have a high rate of immigration from countries such as the UK, where there are very fair-skinned people. And interestingly, those people who've lived in a country that has a cold climate for the first 15 years of their life are protected from melanoma.
There are 3 types of skin cancer: squamous cell, basal cell and the deadliest, melanoma. But if treated early, the prognosis is good.
Melanoma, if caught early, is almost curable. And when I say almost curable, there's always still a small mortality, but if it's caught early, then there's a very good chance of a cure. Most of the other skin cancers, if they're caught early, are completely curable.
But for those who don't catch it in time, the consequences can be fatal.
Via the bloodstream, the cancer can spread to other parts of the body, to the lung, to the brain.
For the past 30 years, education programs have been underway here in Australia to teach people about the need to cover up and reduce their UV exposure. And while skin cancer rates in older people have stabilised, the message isn't getting through to the younger generation. Many are still looking for that perfect tan. Melody Horrell in Adelaide, South Australia for the CNN World Report.
Israeli researchers say early detection of the most dangerous form of skin cancer is proving to be beneficial. Officials attribute a recent decrease in the number of new cases of melanoma in Israel to their ongoing sun safety campaign. Still, the Jewish state has one of the highest rates of skin cancer in the world.
We have immigrant population that came from the former Russia. They have light skin. And they love the sun because they didn't have it. So some of them, when they came, we have to re-educate them. They were coming to the emergency room with burns because, you know, they were like giving themselves completely to the sun without any protection. And we have a lot of others who came, you know, in the 20s and 30s and 50s. They came from the western part of Europe or other parts with a lot of Ashkenazi, with light skin. So we have, like in Australia, in New Zealand, a high proportion of population who are in high risk. And it's a very warm area.
And just ahead on CNN World Report, the effect of cancer on some of its youngest victims.
And we need to make the government and the health department aware that more funding should be going into this area.
Parents in Britain push for better health care for children, and in Iran, helping patients who need it most. Details after a short break. Welcome back. Cancer in children is much more rare than in adults. Still, more than 160,000 children worldwide are diagnosed with cancer each year. Gemma Frost is one such child living with the dreaded disease. Britain's ITN has her story.
4-year-old Gemma Frost appears a happy, healthy child, but a year ago her parents noticed a palsy on her face, this after she'd begun bumping into objects. A scan and further investigations revealed Gemma had a malignant tumour on the brainstem. She's had surgery but is receiving no further treatment and her condition's being monitored. Despite her parents' anguish, they take some comfort in the fact that they at least got an early diagnosis, unlike others.
We know that the amount of stress that some of the parents were under that we met on our way through, who had waited months and months for a diagnosis, and GPs wouldn't refer them for scans. The parents saying, you must scan my child, I think there is something wrong with their brain, and the GP saying, no, it's not, it's just a childhood falling over, they're just growing or something.
There's been a huge campaign for meningitis, and everybody has an awareness of the different symptoms for meningitis. There needs to be funding for GPs so that they are aware, they have a list of symptoms that they can go through.
Now a charity has commissioned research which shows it can take 2 to 3 times longer to diagnose a brain tumour in children in the UK than in the US and some other countries.
There are 6,500 adults diagnosed with a brain tumour every year in the UK and 450 children. That's not rare. To me, that's not rare. And we need to make the government and the health department aware that more funding should be going into this area.
The key symptoms in children include impaired movement, nausea or vomiting, seizures and visual disturbances, though children under 3 may show different symptoms than older children. And of course, many of these symptoms can be caused by a wide range of common illnesses. One of the authors of the report says scans should be available at an earlier stage.
Our modified guidelines identify the end point of these guidelines as doing a scan, whereas the previous guidelines identified referring to a hospital. And the process of referral to hospital takes many weeks often. And so saying that our guidance saying that you should do a scan brings that time forward.
Early diagnosis may not affect the final outcome, but it is a step towards possible improvements in treatment.
This last report from Britain's ITN. And 2 decades ago, another little girl in Iran was also diagnosed with cancer. Her illness inspired the creation of an organization dedicated to caring for children stricken by the disease. Iran's state-run IRIB has more now on the mission of a charity hospital called Mahak.
About 20 years ago, Kiana was in the same situation, but now she's entering university. Sounds a miracle. But how?
When Kiana was diagnosed with cancer, I vowed to God, if my little daughter is cured, I'll help cancer-stricken children all of my life. Maybe Kiana's illness motivated me to create Mahak charity organization.
Children will have no worry over the cancer suffering. It's all because of Mahak Hospital Charity, where their old dream has come true.
Mahak is a 16 years old organization. During these 16 years, we established a huge hospital, as you see.
Help us, help you. By this slogan, Mahak has proved itself in the 2 main fields of supporting and charity affairs,
such as treatment and their living expenses and the education expenses. For the time being, we have 5,211 children under our treatment.
I am an Iraqi citizen. I couldn't afford the medicines for my son, so they sent me here where everything is free. I'm very fine here with my friends. My aunts play with me. They are very nice.
Volunteer groups' cooperation is the most important feature of Mahak. Some 31,000 members support this NGO charity organization from abroad via this website. Mahak Hospital also tries to alleviate psychological ordeals of the children and their parents with various training courses. Hamid Zadashti, IRIB correspondent, reporting for CNN World Report, Tehran.
Hope Lodge in Turkey is another place trying to alleviate some of the burdens of cancer patients. Until this year, many people seeking treatment at a nearby hospital in Ankara struggled to find clean, affordable housing while undergoing treatment. But now the lodge provides 10 rooms for cancer patients and their families. And that is all for this edition of our show. Thanks for watching, and as always, many thanks to all of the contributors who provide reports for the program. I'm Guillermo Arduino. You stay tuned for World News here on CNN.